Attention all units. Target located. I repeat, target located.
Hi, Santa. Can you take a picture with me? It's for my daughter, you know.
Sure, my young friend. Ho. Are you going home now? Take this little gift to her. Thank you.
Attention implanted bug. Synchronize his location now.
They thought he was just the mall Santa until his real target walked into the crowd. The smell of cinnamon and pine filled the air. Children's laughter echoed through the crowded shopping center. Families stood in line, eager to capture that perfect holiday photo with Santa Claus. But beneath the red velvet suit and white beard sat a man whose hands once held weapons in the shadows of enemy territory. A man who had lived a dozen different lives under a dozen different names. A man the CIA had called one of their most lethal operatives. On December 22, 2023, in the heart of Denver, Colorado, what appeared to be just another festive scene at Cherry Creek Shopping Center was actually the stage for a covert operation that would prevent one of the deadliest terrorist attacks on American soil. The jolly man in the Santa suit wasn't there to ask children what they wanted for Christmas. He was there to identify a ghost from his past, a ruthless arms dealer who had vanished from international radar and resurfaced with plans that would turn holiday joy into unspeakable tragedy. Thomas Aldridge had spent 32 years living in the darkness, sacrificing everything a normal man holds dear. His marriage crumbled under the weight of secrets he could never share. His children grew up with a father who was always traveling for business. He had been shot, tortured, betrayed, and decorated with medals he could never display. After a catastrophic mission in Syria forced his retirement in 2018, Tom thought he had finally escaped. He thought the nightmares would fade. He thought he could become invisible, just another retiree in suburban America. He was wrong. When his former handler called 3 days before Christmas with an impossible request, Tom faced a choice: ignore the call and let innocent families die, or put on a Santa suit and become a spy one last time. What happened next would test every skill he had learned in 3 decades of espionage, push him to the edge of his psychological limits, and ultimately give him something he never thought he would find: redemption. How does a man trained to kill become the symbol of childhood innocence? What goes through the mind of a retired operative when he spots his target walking toward him with a backpack that could contain devastation? And can someone who has lived in shadows for so long finally step into the light? Subscribe to our channel, and comment below where you're rewatching this from, because this story will change how you see the world around you. The hero sitting next to you on the bus, serving your coffee, or, yes, even playing Santa at your local mall, might be someone extraordinary hiding in plain sight. Let's dive into the incredible true-to-life story of the man who saved Christmas. Thomas Aldridge woke up at 5:30 in the morning, just as he had every day for the past 47 years. Old habits from a life of discipline never die. His modest 2-bedroom ranch house in the Stapleton neighborhood of Denver was quiet, almost eerily so. The kind of quiet that used to make him nervous during his operational years, the kind that preceded ambushes or betrayals. He shuffled to the kitchen in his worn slippers, the December cold seeping through the windows despite the heater running. Denver winters were nothing compared to the bone-chilling nights he had endured in Moscow or the suffocating heat of Beirut summers, but his aging body felt every degree now. At 67, Tom's thick white hair and naturally full white beard had become his most defining features. Neighbors joked that he was born to play Santa Claus. If only they knew. Tom prepared his coffee in silence, watching the sun barely begin to break over the snow-covered Front Range mountains in the distance. The view from his kitchen window was peaceful. Families starting their days, dogs being walked, school buses making their rounds. Everything he had once fought to protect, now surrounding him in comfortable anonymity. His phone buzzed. A text from Margaret, the manager at Cherry Creek Shopping Center. Don't forget, big day today. Santa photos fully booked from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. You're our star. Tom smiled faintly. 3 years ago, when his therapist suggested he find a way to engage with the community, to reintegrate into civilian life, he never imagined he would end up as a mall Santa. It started as a joke. A neighbor mentioned they were desperately looking for someone to fill the role after their regular Santa had a heart attack. Tom's appearance was perfect for the part. He figured it would be temporary. But something unexpected happened. Sitting in that ornate chair, listening to children whisper their innocent wishes, feeling their tiny arms wrap around his neck in trusting hugs, it began to heal something broken inside him. For a few hours each day, he wasn't Thomas Aldridge, former CIA operative with blood on his hands and ghosts in his dreams. He was simply Santa, a symbol of joy, generosity, and unconditional love. Tom showered, moving with the mechanical efficiency of someone who had dressed in the dark in hostile territories countless times. His body was lean but marked with the history of his real life. A scar from a knife wound in Budapest running along his left ribcage, another from shrapnel in Kandahar on his right shoulder, and the faded burns on his forearms from an interrogation in Damascus that he still refused to discuss, even with his therapist. As he pulled on his civilian clothes, jeans and a flannel shirt, he caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror. The face staring back was weathered, lined with experiences that most people couldn't fathom. His blue eyes, once sharp and calculating, now carried a softness that came from 5 years of trying to forget. The drive to Cherry Creek Shopping Center took 20 minutes. Tom navigated his old Toyota Camry through the morning traffic, listening to a classic rock station. Denver had changed so much since he first moved here in 2018. The city was booming with new construction, young professionals flooding in from the coasts, craft breweries on every corner. It felt foreign and familiar at the same time. Cherry Creek Shopping Center was Denver's premier upscale mall, a sprawling complex of high-end retailers, restaurants, and entertainment venues. During the holidays, it transformed into a winter wonderland complete with elaborate decorations, a massive Christmas tree in the center court, and of course, Santa's workshop, an elaborately designed set where Tom spent his days. He arrived at 8:30, entering through the employee entrance. The mall was already buzzing with staff preparing for the day. Tom made his way to the small dressing room behind Santa's workshop, where his costume waited on a rack. The red velvet suit, black boots, wide belt with a shiny gold buckle, and the iconic hat. Margaret had spared no expense on authenticity. Tom suited up with practiced efficiency, adjusting the padding around his midsection, securing the belt, and finally, positioning the white beard over his own. The transformation was complete. "Morning, Tom." Margaret breezed into the room, clipboard in hand, her energy infectious as always. She was in her mid-40s, a single mother of 2 who ran the mall's events with military precision. If she only knew how much Tom appreciated that quality. "We've got a full house today. Holiday rush is insane. You ready?" "Ready as always," Tom replied, his voice taking on the slight, jovial tone he used for the role. "You're the best Santa we've ever had. You know that. The kids absolutely love you, and the parents too. I've had at least a dozen families specifically request you for their photos this week." Tom nodded, feeling that strange warmth again. 3 years ago, he wouldn't have believed that the approval of children and their parents would mean anything to him. Now, it was one of the few things that did. At precisely 10 o'clock, the workshop opened. The line of families stretched around the corner. Tom settled into his throne, an oversized chair decorated with gold trim and red cushions, and smiled at the first child of the day. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, with pigtails and a green dress, approached shyly, holding her mother's hand. Her eyes widened when she saw Tom. "Hi there, sweetheart," Tom said warmly. "What's your name?" "Emma," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name, Emma. Have you been good this year?" She nodded vigorously. "I'm so glad to hear that. Now, tell me, what would you like for Christmas?" And so the day began. Child after child, family after family, each one with their own story, their own wishes, their own pure belief in magic. Tom listened to them all with genuine interest. A boy who wanted a bicycle, a girl who wanted her military father to come home safely from deployment, that one hit particularly hard. Twins who wanted a puppy, a teenager who awkwardly admitted he just wanted to make his grandmother happy by taking this photo. The hours blurred together in a pleasant rhythm. Tom's training made him naturally observant, and he found himself noticing details about each family. The exhausted single dad trying to manage 3 kids alone. The grandmother who could barely afford the photo package but wanted to give her grandchildren a memory. The wealthy couple whose designer clothes couldn't hide their marital tension. He had spent decades reading people for threats, for deception, for vulnerabilities to exploit. Now he read them for pain he might ease, for joy he might amplify, for moments he might make memorable. During his lunch break at 2 o'clock, Tom retreated to the employee lounge. He ate the sandwich he had packed, turkey and Swiss on wheat, and scrolled through his phone. A text from his daughter, Rebecca, who lived in Portland. "Hope work is going well. Dad, maybe we can actually talk this Christmas." Tom's chest tightened. Rebecca was 32 now, a successful architect, married with a young son Tom had only met twice. The distance between them wasn't measured in miles but in years of absence, of missed birthdays, of lies about where he was and what he did. She was trying, he could see that. Extending an olive branch, he wanted to reach back but didn't know how. He typed a response. "I'd like that very much. Love you, sweetheart." Before he could overthink it, he hit send. His son Michael was even more distant. Living in Boston, working in finance, married but no children yet. Michael had been 14 when Tom's marriage to their mother, Patricia, fell apart. Old enough to understand something was wrong but not old enough to understand what. Michael's resentment had hardened into cold politeness over the years. Tom had tried to explain once, after he retired, that everything he did was to keep them safe, to keep the country safe. Michael had looked at him with empty eyes and said, "You kept everyone safe except your own family." The words still cut like a blade. Tom finished his sandwich and returned to the workshop. The afternoon rush was even more intense than the morning. The mall was packed with last-minute shoppers, the energy both festive and frantic. Christmas was 3 days away. At 5:30, as Tom was helping a child onto his lap, he felt it, a sensation he hadn't experienced in 5 years, a tingling at the base of his skull, a heightening of awareness, an instinct screaming that something was off. His eyes scanned the crowd out of habit. Families, shoppers, mall security, nothing obvious, but the feeling persisted. Tom forced himself to focus on the child, a boy named Lucas who wanted a video game console. He smiled, listened, promised to do his best, but internally, every nerve was on alert. Was he being paranoid? PTSD could do strange things. His therapist had warned him about hypervigilance in crowded spaces. Maybe it was just that, or maybe, after 3 decades of trusting his instincts to stay alive, he should listen to them now. The rest of the evening passed without incident, but Tom couldn't shake the feeling. At 8 o'clock, when the last family left and Margaret thanked him for another perfect day, Tom changed out of his costume quickly and walked to his car with his keys positioned between his fingers, an old defensive habit. Nothing happened. He drove home, checked his locks twice, and settled into his recliner with a glass of bourbon. The news played on the television, but he wasn't really watching. His phone rang at 9:15. Unknown number. Tom almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Hello, Thomas." The voice was familiar, though he hadn't heard it in 5 years. Richard Webb, his former handler at the CIA. Tom's blood ran cold. "Richard, I know you're retired. I know you've built a life. I know you don't want to hear from me. Then why are you calling?" "Because we need you one more time. It's urgent, and you're the only one who can help." Tom closed his eyes. The darkness he thought he had escaped was reaching out, pulling him back. "I'm retired," he said firmly. "I know. And I wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. Can we meet? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., our usual spot." The usual spot was a bench in Washington Park, a place where they used to debrief when Tom was between assignments and visiting Denver for personal matters. "Richard, I can't. Viktor Kozlov is in Denver." The name hit Tom like a physical blow. Viktor Kozlov, Russian arms dealer, ruthless, intelligent, and responsible for supplying weapons to terrorist organizations across 3 continents. Tom had encountered him briefly in Moscow 15 years ago during a surveillance operation. Kozlov had vanished from CIA radar 4 years ago, presumed dead or deeply underground. "If he's here, send an active team," Tom said. "We can't confirm it's him without visual identification from someone who's seen him in person. The facial recognition is inconclusive. He's had extensive surgery. You're the only operative from that Moscow operation still alive. Thomas, everyone else died in subsequent missions or retired to locations we can't quickly access. That's not my problem anymore. If he's planning something big, multiple cell phone intercepts suggest an attack during the holiday shopping rush. Christmas week, public location, high casualties. We need eyes on the ground who can identify him without spooking him." Tom's mind raced an attack here in Denver during Christmas. "At a public location like a shopping center tomorrow. 9 a.m. Washington Park," Richard said. "Please, Thomas, I'm asking as someone who knows what you've sacrificed. This is the last time, I promise." The line went dead. Tom sat in silence, staring at his phone. The peaceful life he had built, the progress he had made, the connection he was starting to rebuild with his children, all of it felt suddenly fragile. But in his mind's eye, he saw Emma, the little girl from this morning with her pigtails and shy smile. He saw Lucas and his excitement about video games. He saw hundreds of families, innocent people just trying to celebrate the holidays. Could he really ignore this? Could he live with himself if something happened and he had done nothing? Tom finished his bourbon in one long swallow. Sleep didn't come easy that night. If you want to know how a retired spy prepares for one final mission, how the past collides with the present, and what Thomas discovers when he meets his former handler, then make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Hit that like button, leave a comment telling us what you think so far, and share this story with someone who loves real-life espionage tales. The stakes are about to get even higher, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Washington Park was dusted with fresh snow, the walking paths cleared by the city's early morning crews. Tom arrived at 8:45, 25 years of operational training making him incapable of being late to any meeting. He wore a heavy coat, gloves, and a knit cap, looking like any other Denver resident taking a morning walk. The bench where he had agreed to meet Richard sat near the park's large lake, now partially frozen over. A few ducks paddled near the edge where the water remained liquid. The morning air was crisp, his breath visible in small clouds. Tom scanned the area methodically. Dog walkers, joggers, a homeless man sleeping on a bench 50 yards away. No obvious surveillance, but that didn't mean it wasn't there. The CIA had become more sophisticated in the years since his retirement. Richard appeared at exactly 9 o'clock, approaching from the east path. He was in his early 60s now, his hair completely gray, wearing an expensive wool coat and leather gloves. He carried a briefcase, and his face bore the wariness of someone who still carried the weight of national security on his shoulders. "Thomas," Richard said, sitting down on the bench beside him. "Thank you for coming." "I haven't agreed to anything," Tom replied flatly. "I know. Just hear me out." Richard opened the briefcase and pulled out a tablet. He swiped through several images, each one showing surveillance photos of a man. The subject had dark hair, a beard, and wore unremarkable clothing. He appeared to be in his 50s. "We intercepted communications 2 weeks ago, encrypted channels we've been monitoring since 2019. The key phrase, Winter Festival, appeared multiple times, along with coordinates that pinpoint Denver. The voice print analysis suggests it's Kozlov, but we can't be certain. The speaker has altered their voice patterns slightly." Tom studied the photos. "That doesn't look like Kozlov. Extensive facial reconstruction surgery. cheekbones raised, nose reshaped, jawline altered. But look at the eyes. Thomas, look at the way he carries himself. Tom focused on the details Richard indicated. There was something in the posture, the way the man held his shoulders, the intensity in the gaze, even in these candid shots. It could be him. What's the timeline? Tom asked. We believe the attack is planned for December 22nd through December 24th. That's now through Christmas Eve. The intercepts referenced maximum families, symbolic timing, and center of consumption. We've identified 3 potential targets in Denver: the 16th Street Mall, Denver Pavilions, and Cherry Creek Shopping Center. Tom's stomach dropped. Cherry Creek, Richard nodded. We've increased surveillance at all 3 locations, but it's delicate. If Kozlov suspects we're onto him, he'll either accelerate the timeline or disappear again. We need someone on the inside who can identify him positively without raising suspicion. You want me to go back to work? Tom said slowly. As Santa, you're already scheduled to be there. You have a legitimate reason to be in the center court, observing everyone who passes through. It's perfect cover. We'll have teams positioned throughout the mall in plain clothes, but they need confirmation before we can move. Tom was silent for a long moment, watching the ducks navigate the icy water. Tell me about the mission in Syria, Richard said quietly. The one that ended your career. Tom's jaw tightened. Why? Because I need you to know that what happened wasn't your fault. The intelligence was bad. The asset was compromised before you ever made contact. 6 good people died that night, and you barely made it out. You've been carrying that guilt for 5 years, and it's eating you alive. You don't know what I carry, Tom said, his voice low and dangerous. I know more than you think. I know you wake up at night seeing their faces. I know you blame yourself for trusting the wrong person. I know that's why you've isolated yourself from your own children, because you think everyone you get close to ends up hurt or dead. Tom stood abruptly. I didn't come here for therapy. No, you came here because deep down you know you can't walk away, not from this. Richard stood as well, facing him. Thomas, you gave 32 years of your life to protecting this country. You missed your son's graduation. You missed your daughter's wedding. Your wife left you because you could never tell her the truth. You've sacrificed everything, and you want me to sacrifice more. No, I want to give you a chance at redemption. Not for the agency, not for me, for yourself. Those families at Cherry Creek, those children standing in line to see Santa, they're why you did this job in the first place. They're why any of us do this job. Tom stared at the frozen lake. Memories flooded back unbidden. Berlin, 1989. Extracting a defector while the wall was coming down. The chaos, the fear, the exhilaration when they made it across. Moscow, 2008. The operation where he first saw Kozlov, a brief encounter at a black market arms deal Tom had infiltrated. Kozlov's cold eyes, the casual way he discussed weapons that would kill thousands. Beirut, 2003. A bombing he had prevented. Working with local assets, diffusing tensions between factions. He never made the news. No one ever knew how close the city came to erupting. Afghanistan, 2011. Training local forces, building trust, navigating impossible cultural divides, trying to create stability in the midst of chaos. And Syria, 2018. The mission that shattered everything. Tom had been working with a rebel faction, trying to locate a chemical weapons cache. His asset, a man named Ahmad, who Tom had worked with for 3 years, had provided coordinates. Tom led a team of 6 operatives into the location. It was a trap. Ahmad had been compromised, his family threatened. The building was rigged with explosives. 2 operatives died in the initial blast. Tom managed to get 3 others out, but 1 bled out before they reached extraction. The 6th, a young woman named Sarah Chen, was captured. Tom heard her screaming as they fled. She was executed 2 days later. The video was sent to the CIA as a warning. Tom had broken 3 ribs, suffered a concussion, and sustained second-degree burns pulling his team from the building. But the physical wounds healed. The psychological ones never did. He retired 6 months later, moved to Denver where he had no history, no connections, and tried to disappear into normalcy. 3 days, Tom said, turning back to Richard. Today through Christmas Eve. If we don't find him by then, I'm out. Agreed. I want full support. If I identify him, your teams move immediately. No delays, no bureaucratic approval chains. Innocent people don't get caught in the crossfire. You have my word. Your word meant something once, Richard. I hope it still does. Richard handed Tom a small device that looked like a hearing aid. Subvocal communication device, latest generation. You wear it in your ear, hidden by your beard when you're in costume. You can communicate with the operations center without anyone hearing you. Just speak normally, and the pickup will catch it. Tom took the device, examining it. Impressive. We've learned a few things since you retired. There's also this. Richard handed him what looked like a regular smartphone, encrypted line directly to the operations center. Use it only for emergencies. We're set up in a surveillance van 2 blocks from the mall. Who's running the operation? Agent Jennifer Martinez. She's young but sharp, came up through counterterrorism. She knows your file, knows your reputation. Great. Another person who thinks I'm a legend. You are a legend, Thomas, whether you want to be or not. Tom pocketed both devices. If this goes wrong, if innocent people get hurt because I missed something, then it's on me, not you. You're doing us a favor. You're already retired. This is voluntary. Nothing was ever voluntary. Richard, you know that as well as I do. They stood in silence for a moment. Two old warriors who had seen too much, sacrificed too much, and yet couldn't quite let go of the mission. There's something else, Richard said. Kozlov isn't working alone. We've identified at least 2 other individuals in the communications. Possible accomplices or handlers. Watch for anyone who seems out of place. Anyone paying too much attention to security measures. Anyone making multiple passes through the mall without purchasing anything. Anything else I should know. Kozlov has a tell. From your encounter in Moscow, you noted in your report that he had a habit of touching his left earlobe when he was stressed or making calculations. Has he maintained that habit? We don't know, but it might help with identification. Tom nodded. He had forgotten about that detail, but now it came flooding back. The meeting in Moscow had been brief, less than 5 minutes, but he had observed Kozlov carefully. The earlobe touch happened 3 times during their short interaction. I'll be at the mall from 10 to 8 today, same schedule through Christmas Eve, Tom said. If he's coming, it'll be during peak hours. Maximum casualties mean maximum crowds. Agreed. We'll have 8 agents positioned throughout the mall. They won't approach you or acknowledge you in any way unless there's an emergency. You're on your own out there, Thomas. Just like old times. Old times, Tom repeated bitterly. The ones I've been trying to forget. Richard placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Sorry for what this job cost you. Sorry for calling you back in. Sorry for all of it. Tom met his eyes. Sorry doesn't bring back Sarah Chen. Sorry doesn't give me back the years I lost with my children. Sorry doesn't erase the things I've done. No, but maybe this will give you something sorry can't. A chance to save lives instead of taking them. Tom walked away without another word, heading back to his car. His hands were shaking slightly, and he recognized the symptoms. Adrenaline, fear, the old familiar cocktail of emotions that preceded every dangerous operation. He sat in his car for 10 minutes, breathing deeply, using the techniques his therapist had taught him for managing anxiety. But this wasn't anxiety. This was activation. Every dormant instinct, every trained response, every survival mechanism was coming back online. Thomas Aldridge, retired CIA operative, was returning to the field. His phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. Morning, Tom. See you at 10. Got a surprise for you. The mayor's office wants to do a PR thing with you and some underprivileged kids this afternoon. You'll be on the news. Tom closed his eyes. Perfect. More visibility. More attention. Exactly what he didn't need while trying to conduct surveillance. He texted back. Sounds great. Another text came through. This one from his daughter Rebecca. Dad, I meant what I said. Let's actually do Christmas together this year. Michael said he might come too. We want to try. Do you? Tom's throat tightened. His children wanted to reconcile. Michael, who hadn't spoken to him in more than a year, was willing to try. And here he was, putting on a Santa suit to hunt a terrorist. The universe had a cruel sense of timing. He texted back, I want that more than anything. Love you both. Let's make it happen. Then he started the car and drove toward Cherry Creek Shopping Center. Toward Viktor Kozlov, toward one final mission he never wanted but couldn't refuse. As he drove, memories continued to surface. Patricia, his ex-wife, the last time he saw her, it was 2019, just after he moved to Denver. She had come to help him unpack, a gesture of kindness despite everything. I never stopped loving you, she had said, standing in his empty living room. I just couldn't compete with the ghost of whoever you were when you left on those trips. You came back different each time, more distant, more haunted. I didn't lose you to another woman, Tom. I lost you to shadows. He had wanted to tell her everything. Wanted to explain that the distance was protection, that keeping her in the dark kept her safe, that every lie was an act of love. But the words wouldn't come. I'm sorry, was all he managed. I know you are, and I know you did what you thought was right. But Tom, at some point, you have to choose to live in the light. You have to choose your family. You have to choose to be present. She had left after that. They remained cordial, occasional emails and texts, but the chasm between them was permanent. Now, driving through Denver's morning traffic, Tom realized he had never made that choice. He had never chosen the light. And now the shadows were pulling him back. He arrived at the mall at 9:30, earlier than usual. The employee parking lot was filling up with workers preparing for another day of holiday chaos. Tom sat in his car, inserted the communication device in his ear, and tested it. This is Thomas. Testing communication. A female voice responded immediately. Copy, Thomas. This is Agent Martinez. I'm running the operation. Good to have you on board. Let's hope you don't regret that. Tom muttered. Your reputation precedes you, sir. We're ready to support however needed. Just stay back and let me work. I'll signal if I spot him. Understood. We have eyes on all entrances and exits. 8 agents inside, 4 more in the packing structures. You're our primary identifier. Tom entered the mall through the employee entrance, made his way to the dressing room, and began the transformation. Red suit, black boots, belt, beard, each piece of the costume felt different now. He wasn't just playing Santa, he was assuming deep cover. The way he had done dozens of times before in foreign countries where a single mistake meant death. Margaret found him just as he finished dressing Tom. You look perfect as always. Listen, About this afternoon, the mayor's office is sending a photographer at 2 p.m. Just be your wonderful self. Oh, and they're bringing kids from the Jefferson County foster care system. Should be really sweet, I'll be ready, Tom said, his mind already working through how to maintain surveillance while cameras were flashing and attention was on him. The workshop opened at 10. The line was even longer than yesterday. Tom settled into his throne and began his work, both roles simultaneously. Santa Claus, listening to children's wishes. CIA operative, scanning every face in the crowd for the ghost of a man he met 15 years ago. Every adult was a potential threat. Every backpack was a possible weapon. Every lingering glance was suspicious. The morning stretched on. Families came and went. Tom's trained eyes catalogued them all while his voice remained warm and his smile genuine. At 11:30, he saw someone who made his pulse quicken. A man in his 50s, dark hair, beard, wearing a gray jacket and jeans. The build was right. The age was right. The man stood near the edge of Santa's workshop area, watching but not approaching. Tom's finger subtly touched his ear, activating the communication device. Possible visual: gray jacket, north side of the workshop area. Standing alone, copy, eyes on him. Hold position. The man watched for another minute, then walked away, disappearing into the crowd. He's moving. Heading toward the food court, Tom said quietly, pretending to adjust a child on his lap. We have him, maintaining surveillance. 10 minutes later, Martinez's voice came through. It's not him. Subject is a mall security guard on his break. Stand down. Tom exhaled slowly. False alarm, but the adrenaline was still pumping. What do you think so far? Is Tom ready for what's coming? Is the threat real or is paranoia taking over? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. The afternoon brought the media circus Margaret had warned about. At precisely 2 p.m., a team from a local news station arrived with cameras, lighting equipment, and an enthusiastic reporter named Diana Crawford. The mayor's office had indeed sent 20 children from Jefferson County's foster care system, ages ranging from 4 to 12, all dressed in their best clothes and buzzing with excitement. Tom maintained his Santa persona flawlessly while his eyes never stopped scanning. Every new person entering the area was assessed, categorized, dismissed or flagged for further observation. The communication device in his ear provided a constant low murmur of updates from Martinez and her team. Channel 7 is here with Santa Tom, who has become a beloved fixture at Cherry Creek Shopping Center, Diana Crawford announced to her camera, her smile bright and professional. Today, he's bringing holiday magic to some very special children who deserve a little extra joy this season. The children lined up, some shy, others exuberant. Tom listened to each one with genuine attention, even as a part of his mind remained on high alert. A boy named Marcus wanted art supplies. A girl named Destiny hoped for books. Twin brothers wanted matching bicycles. Each wish broke his heart a little more because he knew what was at stake. If Kozlov succeeded, these children might not live to see Christmas morning. Santa Tom, what made you want to do this? Diana asked, shoving a microphone toward him during a brief break between children. Tom smiled, his voice taking on the warm grandfatherly tone he had perfected. Well, Diana, I believe in the magic of Christmas. I believe in making children smile. And I believe that every child deserves to feel special, loved, and heard. These kids right here, they're the reason I do this every day. It wasn't entirely an act. He meant every word, even as his peripheral vision tracked a man in a black coat who had been circling the area for the third time in 20 minutes. Possible visual: black coat, brown boots, circling the workshop. Tom murmured when Diana turned away to speak with her cameraman. Copy, we see him, age mid-50s, right height, right build, can't see his face clearly yet. Agents 3 and 5 are moving to intercept his path. Natural approach. Tom continued with the children, his heart rate elevated but his hands steady. Years of training had taught him to compartmentalize, to function under extreme stress while appearing completely normal. The man in the black coat stopped at a coffee kiosk 30 feet away, ordered something, and stood drinking it while watching the crowd. Tom got a clearer look at his face. Not Kozlov. Different nose structure, different eyes. Another false alarm. Stand down. Not our target, Tom said quietly. The afternoon wore on. The news segment wrapped up. The photographer took what seemed like hundreds of pictures, and the foster children left with gift bags that Margaret had organized. Several of them hugged Tom tightly, whispering thank yous that he felt he didn't deserve. After the media departed, the regular flow of families resumed. Tom's feet ached, his back was sore, and the psychological strain of maintaining dual awareness was exhausting, but he never wavered. At 4:15 p.m., everything changed. A man entered Tom's field of vision from the west entrance of the mall. He was alone, wearing a tan jacket, dark jeans, and carrying a backpack. His hair was dark with gray at the temples, his face partially obscured by a beard and sunglasses worn indoors. He moved through the crowd with purpose but not haste, his eyes scanning methodically. Tom's instincts screamed. The man's build matched what Kozlov's would be now. The way he carried himself, shoulders back, he straight economical movements, was military or intelligence training. And as Tom watched, the man's left hand came up and touched his left earlobe, once, twice, 3 times in the span of 30 seconds, Kozlov's tell. I have him, Tom said quietly, his voice steady despite the adrenaline dump flooding his system. Tan jacket, dark beard, sunglasses, backpack, west entrance, moving toward center court. This is him. Confirm identification. Martinez's voice was sharp, focused, 90% certain. The body language matches. He's using the earlobe tell. Need facial confirmation, but I'm confident. All teams, we have a possible positive identification. Subject is code red. Do not approach, do not engage. Observe and report only. We need absolute confirmation before we move. The man, Kozlov Tom, was almost certain, continued walking, seemingly browsing the stores but clearly casing the layout. He stopped at a pillar near the center court, positioned where he could observe multiple exits and entrances. Strategic positioning. Tom had a child on his lap, a 5-year-old girl named Sophie who wanted a dollhouse. He listened to her with half his attention while tracking Kozlov with the other half. He's stationary now, southeast pillar, center court. Has clear line of sight to the main entrance, the food court, and this position. Agent 2, can you get closer for facial recognition? Moving now, a male voice responded over the communication line. Tom watched as a man in his 30s, dressed in business casual attire carrying shopping bags, casually walked past Kozlov while apparently checking his phone. The phone was actually recording high-resolution video for facial recognition software. Got him running it now, the agent said. Sophie finished telling Tom about the dollhouse she wanted. He smiled at her, promised to do his best, and sent her off with her parents. The next family approached, but Tom's focus was entirely on Kozlov now. The man checked his watch, then his own phone. He typed something, his fingers moving quickly. Was he communicating with accomplices, confirming timing, activating a device? Facial recognition is 65% match, Martinez said, accounts for surgical alterations. Combined with behavioral analysis and your visual confirmation, we're green-lighted to move. All teams, prepare to intercept on my signal. Tom, we need to get you clear before we engage. Negative, Tom said quietly. If you move teams into position now, he'll spot it and either run or trigger early. He's watching for exactly that kind of coordination. Tom, you're a civilian consultant. We can't put you at risk. I haven't been a civilian for most of my life, Agent Martinez, and right now, I'm the only one in position to prevent a panic. There was a pause on the line. Tom could imagine the debate happening in the operations center. Protocol versus practicality. Safety versus mission success. What's your plan? Martinez finally asked. I approach him. Santa recognizes someone who looks troubled, offers holiday cheer. It's completely in character. Gets me close enough to confirm identity and assess the backpack. If it's him and the bag contains a device, I signal and your teams move. But it has to look natural. That's extremely dangerous. It's also our best option. He's not going to suspect Santa Claus. Another pause. Approved by Tom. If this goes wrong, it won't. Tom stood from his throne, something he rarely did during operating hours. Margaret looked over, concerned. Tom, you okay? Just need to stretch my legs for a minute. Back's a bit stiff, he said with a smile. Mind if I take a quick walk? Of course, you've been amazing today. Take 5. Tom walked slowly, maintaining his Santa persona, a friendly older man in a red suit, waving at children, nodding at parents. He circled around, approaching Kozlov from an angle that would seem coincidental rather than intentional. His training guided him. Appear non-threatening, smile, move slowly, no sudden gestures. Kozlov was still at the pillar, his attention on his phone but his peripheral awareness clearly active. Tom could see it in the way his shoulders tensed slightly when anyone moved too close, 10 feet away, 5 feet. Excuse me, friend, Tom said in his cheerful Santa voice. You look like you could use some Christmas spirit. Kozlov looked up, his eyes hidden behind the sunglasses but his body language instantly defensive. His right hand moved slightly toward his jacket pocket. Tom kept smiling, his own body relaxed, hands visible and empty. Sorry to bother you, I'm just taking a little break from my chair over there. Gets pretty intense with all those kids. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Kozlov's hand relaxed slightly. No problem, he said in lightly accented English. Russian accent, just as Tom remembered from Moscow. Tom moved a bit closer, still maintaining non-threatening body language. You shopping for anyone special? I'm always curious what adults want for Christmas. Kids are easy, they tell me everything. Just looking, Kozlov replied, his tone polite but distant. Not much of a Christmas person. Ah, I understand. Not everyone celebrates, but I hope you find whatever you're looking for. Tom was 3 feet away now, close enough to see the man's face clearly despite the sunglasses. The bone structure was different. The surgery had been extensive, but the eyes, Tom knew those eyes. Cold, calculating, devoid of warmth. He had seen them in Moscow 15 years ago and he was seeing them now. And the backpack was positioned carefully, Kozlov's hand never far from it, protective in a way that suggested valuable or dangerous contents. Tom's left hand came up to scratch his beard, the prearranged signal for positive identification. Well, Merry Christmas anyway, Tom said, beginning to turn away. Wait, Kozlov said suddenly. Tom turned back, his heart rate spiking but his expression remaining pleasant and curious. You're the Santa from this mall. You've been here for years. 3 years now, Tom said. Best job I ever had. Why do you ask? Kozlov studied him for a long moment. Tom could feel the assessment happening. the calculations running behind those cold eyes. Was his cover blown? Had Kozlov somehow recognized him from their brief encounter in Moscow? It seemed impossible, but Tom had seen impossible things become reality too many times in his career. You seem very dedicated, Kozlov finally said. Most people just do this for money. Oh, I do get paid, Tom laughed. But honestly, I'd probably do it for free. The kids, you know, their faces when they sit down and tell me their wishes. There's something pure about that. Something worth protecting. The last phrase was deliberate. A small test. Would Kozlov react to the word protecting? Nothing. His expression remained neutral. Must be nice, Kozlov said, to believe in something so simple. It is, Tom replied. I hope you find something to believe in too, friend. Everyone deserves that. He walked away slowly, his legs steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his body. He had been 3 feet away from a man who had facilitated the deaths of thousands, a man who was planning to turn this joyful shopping center into a massacre scene, and they had just had a pleasant conversation about Christmas. Positive ID confirmed, Tom said quietly as soon as he was out of Kozlov's earshot. It's him. The backpack is suspicious. He's protective of it, never lets it leave his sight. Could contain the device. All teams, we have confirmed positive identification. Subject is code red. Verified threat. Prepare for tactical apprehension. Tom, return to your position and stay there. We're moving in 2 minutes. Wait, Tom said, something nagging at his trained instincts. Something's wrong. What do you mean? He's too calm, too relaxed. If he's here to plant a device or conduct an attack, he should be more nervous, more focused. He's browsing. He's almost leisurely. Maybe he's confident. Maybe he's a professional. He is a professional, which means he's also careful. Martinez, I think he's scouting. This isn't the attack. This is reconnaissance for the actual attack. There was silence on the line as Martinez considered this. That would mean it means we can't take him down in the middle of the mall. If he has partners watching, they'll know we're onto the operation and go to ground. We need to follow him, find out where he's staying, identify his accomplices, and roll up the entire cell. That's a much riskier strategy. If we're wrong and he's here to trigger something today, we'll have missed our chance. Tom watched Kozlov from across the court. The man was now walking again, heading toward the north exit. Still calm, still observant, but definitely leaving. I've been doing this for 32 years, Tom said. Trust my instinct. This isn't the moment. He's planning something bigger. All teams hold position. Do not intercept. Agent 5, you have mobile surveillance. Follow subject at a distance. Do not lose him. Copy. I have visual. He's exiting to parking structure B. Tom returned to his chair, his mind racing. If Kozlov was scouting today, when was the actual attack planned? Tomorrow, Christmas Eve. That would make sense. Even larger crowds, more families, maximum impact. The rest of his shift passed in a blur of children and anxiety. Every moment he expected to hear that they had lost Kozlov, that the surveillance had been spotted, that the operation had been compromised. But at 8 p.m. when Tom finally left the mall, Martinez's voice came through his earpiece with good news. Subject returned to a short-term rental property in Westminster. We have the address under surveillance. Thermal imaging shows 3 individuals inside, Kozlov and likely 2 accomplices, matching our intelligence about the cell structure. What's the plan? Tom asked, sitting in his car in the employee parking lot. We go in tonight. Full tactical team. Arrest all 3. Secure whatever devices or materials they have. SWAT is being briefed now. Estimated go time is midnight. Tom felt relief wash over him. It's over then. Wilmos, Tom, we'd like you there for the takedown. Not in the action, but nearby for final visual confirmation before we breach. Make sure we have the right house, the right people. Where and when? 11 p.m. I'll text you the address. And Tom, outstanding work today. You've just saved a lot of lives. Tom sat in his car for a long time after the call ended, his hands shaking now that the immediate danger had passed. He had done it. He had identified Kozlov, confirmed the threat, and done it without endangering the hundreds of innocent people in that mall. His phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Michael confirmed. He's flying in Christmas Eve morning. Dad, we're really doing this. We're going to be a family again. Tom closed his eyes, emotions overwhelming him. He had spent the day preventing a tragedy, playing a role he never expected to play again, and now his children wanted him back in their lives. Maybe redemption was possible after all. He texted back, I can't wait. I love you both so much. Then he drove home to prepare for midnight, for one final operation, for the end of Viktor Kozlov's reign of terror. Thank you so much for staying with us through this incredible journey. This story is far from over. The best is yet to come. Tom is about to face his most dangerous moment yet, and you won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Tom arrived at the staging area at 10:45 p.m. It was an undeveloped lot 2 blocks from the target house in Westminster, a working-class suburb north of Denver. 3 black SUVs were parked in a loose formation, their occupants moving with practiced efficiency, checking weapons, reviewing blueprints, coordinating communications. Agent Jennifer Martinez approached Tom as he stepped out of his Toyota. She was younger than he expected, maybe 35, with dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail and sharp, intelligent eyes that assessed him quickly. Mr. Aldridge, thank you for coming. Just Tom, he said. Mr. Aldridge makes me feel older than I already am. She smiled slightly. I've read your file. Multiple commendations. Operational success rate of 93%. Decorated for valor 3 times. You're a legend in the agency. Legends are usually dead people, Tom replied. I'm just someone who did his job and got lucky more often than not. Martinez led him to one of the SUVs where a laptop displayed thermal imaging of the target house. 3 heat signatures were visible on the first floor, clustered in what appeared to be the living room area. Subject 1 is confirmed as Koslav based on your identification. Subjects 2 and 3 are unknowns, but we believe they're part of his cell. Communications intercepts suggest they've been planning this attack for at least 6 months. What's the breach plan? Tom asked, studying the house layout on the screen. SWAT goes in at midnight through multiple entry points. Front door, back door, and a 2-man team through the garage. Speed and surprise. We want them secured before they can trigger any devices or resist any indication what kind of device they're building. Based on materials purchases we've traced to them, likely a TATP-based explosive with ball-bearing shrapnel, designed for maximum casualties in an enclosed space. Martinez's expression was grim. If they had succeeded in deploying this at Cherry Creek during peak holiday hours, double quotes, she didn't need to finish. Tom could imagine the carnage himself. He had seen the aftermath of similar attacks in Beirut, Baghdad, Kabul, the screaming, the blood, the small bodies, the devastation that rippled through entire communities for years afterward. We won't let that happen, Tom said firmly. At 11:30, the SWAT team finished their final preparations. 12 operators in full tactical gear, armed with assault rifles, flashbang grenades, and ballistic shields. Their team leader, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s named Derek Walsh, briefed them one final time. Rules of engagement are clear. These suspects are armed and dangerous. They have access to explosive materials. We go in hard, we go in fast. We secure all 3 subjects and any devices present. Lethal force is authorized if they present an immediate threat. Tom watched the preparation with a mixture of familiarity and detachment. How many operations like this had he been part of? How many doors had he breached? How many threats had he neutralized? It felt like a lifetime ago, but the muscle memory was still there. At 11:55, the teams moved into position. Tom stayed with Martinez in the operations SUV, watching multiple screens showing different angles of the target house. Drone footage from above, night vision cameras from ground units, thermal imaging tracking the 3 heat signatures inside. All teams in position. Walsh's voice came through the radio. Standing by for go. Martinez looked at Tom. Last chance. Are you certain this is Koslav? I'm certain. Execute, 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 Martinez said into her radio. Everything happened simultaneously. The front door exploded inward from a breaching charge. The back door burst open. The garage door was rolled up by operators who moved inside with military precision. Flashbang grenades detonated, their brilliant light visible even through the windows, shouting commands, get down, hands behind your head, do not move. Tom watched the thermal imaging as the 3 heat signatures scattered, then were quickly surrounded and subdued. Less than 30 seconds from breach to containment. 3 subjects secured, Walsh reported. No shots fired, no injuries. Beginning sweep for devices. Martinez exhaled slowly. Clean operation. 5 minutes later, Walsh's voice came through again, but this time there was something wrong in his tone. Operations, we have a problem. Go ahead, Martinez said, her body tensing. None of these subjects match the description of Koslav. Subject 1 is a white male, approximately 40 years old, 5'9". Subject 2 is a white female, approximately 35. Subject 3 is a Hispanic male, approximately 50. Tom's stomach dropped. That's impossible. I watched him enter that house. Thermal showed 3 people. Bring up the footage from earlier, Martinez ordered when Koslav arrived. The technician pulled up recorded drone footage from 8 p.m. when Agent 5 had followed Koslav to this location. The video showed a man matching Koslav's description entering the house. But then, at 8:47 p.m., the same man exited through the back door, walked to a car parked in the alley, and drove away. He made the surveillance, Tom said, the realization hitting him like ice water. He knew he was being followed. He led us to a safe house with other people, then slipped out when we were focused on the front. Damn it, Martinez slammed her hand on the console. Where did he go? Do we have any vehicle tracking? Negative. We lost the vehicle 3 blocks from here. Tom's mind was racing. If Koslav had spotted the surveillance, he knew the operation was compromised, which meant he had 3 options. Abort and disappear, accelerate the timeline and attack immediately, or he's going after a softer target, Tom said suddenly. If he knows Cherry Creek is compromised, he'll shift to somewhere else with less security but still symbolic. The 16th Street Mall, Martinez said, pulling up a map of downtown Denver, or Denver Pavilions. Both will be crowded tomorrow for last-minute Christmas Eve shopping. We need to deploy teams to both locations immediately. Full security presence, bag checks, K9 units, the works. Martinez was already on her radio, coordinating with Denver PD and other federal assets. Tom watched the organized chaos unfold, but something nagged at him. Something wasn't right. Koslav was a professional. He had evaded international law enforcement for years. He wouldn't make a basic mistake like leading surveillance to a safe house unless he wanted them to find it. Martinez, Tom said urgently. What if this wasn't a mistake? What if he wanted us to find this location? Why would he do that? To misdirect us? We're deploying resources to the 16th Street Mall and Denver Pavilions. But what if his real target is somewhere else entirely? Like where? Tom closed his eyes, thinking back to his conversation with Kozlov in the mall. The man's words, his tone, the way he had studied Tom. You're the Santa from this mall. You've been here for years. You seem very dedicated. Most people just do this for money. Why would Kozlov ask those questions? Why show interest in Tom's dedication to the role? And then it hit him. Cherry Creek is still the target, Tom said, his voice cold with certainty. He didn't change plans. He's planning to hit it tomorrow, Christmas Eve, when it will be even more crowded than today. He led us away tonight so we'd redeploy our resources elsewhere. Martinez stared at him. That's a massive risk. He knows we'll have increased security there. He also knows that humans are predictable. We think we compromised his operation, so we move our assets to protect other locations, leaving Cherry Creek with standard mall security. It's exactly what I would do. You're saying he's counting on us to outthink ourselves. Yes, and there's something else. When I talked to him today, he asked about me specifically, about how long I'd been Santa there, about my dedication. He was assessing me, figuring out if I was a threat or just a useful idiot. So what do we do? Tom stood up, his decision made. I go back to work tomorrow as planned. Full Santa schedule, 10 to 8. But this time we're ready. Your teams are positioned throughout the mall. Heavy tactical presence just outside. And the moment Kozlov shows his face, we take him down. Tom, if he suspects you're the one who identified him, then I'm bait. And bait is most effective when it doesn't know it's bait. Martinez looked at him for a long moment. You know this violates about a dozen protocols, using a civilian asset as bait, putting you in direct danger, operating on theory rather than confirmed intelligence. Double quotes, I stopped being a civilian a long time ago, and my theory has kept me alive through 32 years of operations. Trust it now. She nodded slowly. All right, but we do this my way. You wear a wire, you have a panic button, and at the first sign of danger, you signal and we extract you immediately. Agreed. They worked through the night, planning the operation. 16 agents would be positioned throughout Cherry Creek Shopping Center, disguised as shoppers, store employees, and maintenance workers. A tactical team would be stationed in the parking structure, ready to respond within 30 seconds. K-29 units would be doing random sweeps throughout the day, and Tom would be in his Santa chair, the most visible person in the entire mall, doing exactly what he did every day. At 6 a.m., Tom drove home to shower and change. He was exhausted, running on adrenaline and coffee, but he couldn't stop now, not when they were this close. His phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Flight lands at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Rebecca is picking me up. We'll come straight to your place. Dad, I know we haven't been close, but I want to try. Is that okay? Tom stared at the message, emotions overwhelming him. His son, who had barely spoken to him in years, was coming home, was willing to try. And here Tom was, about to walk into what could be a deadly confrontation with a terrorist. He texted back, "That's more than okay. That's everything. I love you, son. See you tomorrow." Then he added, "I'm working until 8, but after that I'm all yours, both of you, for Christmas and for always." At 9:30 a.m. on Christmas Eve, Tom arrived at Cherry Creek Shopping Center. The parking lot was already filling up with last-minute shoppers, families desperate to find that perfect gift, couples browsing together, groups of friends enjoying the holiday atmosphere. They had no idea that somewhere among them might be a man with a bomb designed to kill as many of them as possible. Tom entered through the employee entrance, made his way to the dressing room, and began the familiar transformation. But this time, he also attached the wire. Martinez had given him a sophisticated device that looked like a regular undershirt but contained microphones and a panic button sewn into the fabric. "Communications check." Martinez's voice came through his earpiece. "Loud and clear," Tom replied quietly. "All teams are in position. We're ready when you are." Tom looked at himself in the mirror. Santa Claus, CIA operative, father. All three identities visible in his weathered face. "Let's finish this," he said. The workshop opened at 10. The line was enormous, stretching around the corner and down the main corridor. Families, children, the sounds of Christmas music and laughter filling the air. All of it precious, all of it fragile, all of it depending on Tom and his team to keep them safe. He sat in his throne and smiled at the first child of the day. And he waited for Viktor Kozlov to make his move. The story is almost at its end, but the most intense moment is still ahead. If you've made it this far, you're clearly hooked on this incredible tale. Make sure you stay until the very end to see how everything unfolds. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. We have more amazing stories coming your way that you won't want to miss. Christmas Eve morning at Cherry Creek Shopping Center was controlled chaos. The mall had extended its hours, opening at 8 a.m. instead of the usual 10. And already by 9:30 the corridors were packed with shoppers carrying bags, pushing strollers, searching desperately for last-minute gifts. Tom sat in his Santa throne, greeting his first family of the day, a young couple with twin 4-year-old boys who were so excited they could barely sit still. He listened to their wishes with genuine warmth, but his eyes never stopped moving, scanning faces, watching for the man in the tan jacket, waiting for Kozlov. Hours passed, families came and went. Tom's feet ached, his back was sore, but he remained alert, present in both roles, the friendly Santa and the trained operative. At 11:45, Martinez's voice came through his earpiece. Tom, we've had K9 units sweep the entire mall 3 times. No explosives detected, no sign of Kozlov. It's possible your theory was wrong. Maybe he did abort, or maybe he hasn't arrived yet, Tom said quietly, adjusting a child on his lap. We can't maintain this level of readiness indefinitely. Command is asking when we scale back. Not yet. Give it until closing. If he's coming, it'll be during peak hours. The afternoon stretched on. The mall grew even more crowded as people got off work early for the holiday. The noise level increased, excited conversations, crying babies, Christmas music blaring from every store, the general cacophony of humanity celebrating together. Tom felt the exhaustion settling into his bones. He was 67 years old, running on minimal sleep, and the psychological strain of maintaining dual awareness was taking its toll. Maybe Martinez was right. Maybe Kozlov had disappeared again, vanished into the networks of false identities and safe houses that men like him used to stay invisible. At 4:30 p.m., Margaret brought him a bottle of water and a concerned smile. Tom, you've been going non-stop. Take a break. Seriously, you look exhausted. I'm fine, Tom said, accepting the water gratefully. Just want to make sure every child gets their moment. You know, last day before Christmas. You're too good for this world, Margaret said, squeezing his shoulder. I don't know what we'd do without you. If only she knew. At 5:15 p.m., Tom saw him, a man in a dark blue jacket and khaki pants, clean-shaven now but with the same build, the same purposeful walk, the same cold awareness in his eyes. He wasn't wearing sunglasses this time, and Tom got a clear look at his face. The surgical alterations were obvious if you knew what to look for, the unnaturally smooth cheekbones, the slightly off symmetry of his nose. And as Tom watched, the man's left hand came up and touched his left earlobe. Victor, I have visual confirmation, Tom said quietly, his heart rate spiking but his voice steady. Dark blue jacket, khaki pants, entering from the east entrance, moving toward the center court. This is Kozlov, no backpack visible. Copy. All teams, we have positive identification. Subject is code red, moving to intercept positions. Tom, stay in your seat. Do not engage. He's headed this way, Tom said, directly toward the workshop. Kozlov walked with purpose but not haste, weaving through the crowd with practiced ease. His eyes were scanning constantly, and Tom realized with cold certainty that Kozlov wasn't here to plant a bomb. He was the bomb. He's wearing a suicide vest, Tom said urgently. Look at the way his jacket hangs, the way he's moving. He's carrying weight on his torso, confirm. Martinez's voice was sharp. I spent 3 years in Afghanistan. I know what a suicide bomber looks like. That's what we're dealing with. All team's subject is potentially armed with an explosive device worn on his person. Do not approach. I repeat, do not approach. Evacuation protocols. Negative on evacuation, Tom interrupted. If he sees us trying to clear the mall, he'll trigger immediately. We have to take him down before he realizes we're onto him. How we can't risk a shot with this many civilians. If the vest is rigged with a dead man's switch, then we do it the old-fashioned way, Tom said. Let him come to me. Kozlov was 50 feet away now, moving steadily toward Santa's workshop. His eyes locked onto Tom, and there was recognition there. Not of Tom specifically, but of Santa, the symbol, the perfect target. Detonate a suicide vest next to Santa Claus on Christmas Eve in a crowded American shopping mall. Maximum psychological impact. Maximum casualties, maximum terror. It was exactly what Kozlov would do. Tom had a child on his lap, a 7-year-old girl named Amelia who was telling him about wanting art supplies for Christmas. His hands were shaking slightly, but he kept his voice warm and steady. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. You'll have to show me your artwork sometime 30 feet away. Kozlov's right hand was moving toward his jacket pocket where the trigger would be. Tom, we need to move, Martinez said urgently. Agent 7 has a clear shot at his hand if he goes for the trigger. Too risky, his finger might spasm and trigger it anyway. I need to get close, immobilize his arm before he can activate it. You're not trained for. I spent 5 years defusing hostage situations in the Middle East. I know what I'm doing. 20 feet. Tom smiled at Amelia. I think you're going to have a wonderful Christmas, sweetie. Now, let's get that picture, okay? He stood up from his throne, something unusual enough that Margaret looked over in concern. But Tom was already moving toward Kozlov with his arms spread in an exaggerated, welcoming Santa gesture. Friend, you came back. Tom's voice boomed across the crowded space. I was hoping I'd see you again before Christmas. Come here. Let me wish you a proper Merry Christmas. Kozlov stopped, confused by the direct approach. His hand was still moving toward his pocket, but the unexpected interaction had disrupted his timeline. Tom closed the distance quickly, his arms still spread wide as if going in for a hug, his body language completely non-threatening. 10 feet, 5 feet. Come on, everyone deserves a hug from Santa. Tom laughed loudly. Kozlov's expression hardened. Recognition flashed across his face, not of Tom the Santa, but of Tom the threat. His hand drove toward his pocket. Tom moved. 32 years of training activated in an instant. His left hand swept up, clamping onto Kozlov's right wrist just as his fingers touched the pocket, preventing him from withdrawing his hand. His right arm wrapped around Kozlov's back, locking the man in what appeared to be a warm Santa hug but was actually a combat restraint. "If you move, we both die," Tom whispered in Russian directly into Kozlov's ear. "And if we both die, your mission fails. So you're going to stand very still while my people take you down." Kozlov struggled, trying to pull his hand free, but Tom's grip was iron. Years of maintaining physical conditioning, even in retirement, paid off now. "All teams move now. I have him restrained, but I can't hold him long." Agents materialized from the crowd like ghosts, 4, 6, 8 of them, all converging on Tom's position. Kozlov realized what was happening and thrashed violently, trying to break free, trying to get his hand into his pocket and trigger the vest. "Bomb squad, where are you?" Martinez shouted over the radio. 2 minutes out." "We don't have 2 minutes," Tom grunted, struggling to maintain his hold as Kozlov fought with desperate strength. Agent Walsh, the SWAT team leader from the previous night, reached them first. "Sir, release him and step back. We'll secure no—" Tom shouted. "His hand is on the trigger. If I let go, he activates it. You need to immobilize his entire arm." Walsh understood immediately. "Get his left arm, secure his legs. Someone get wire cutters and find that trigger." More agents piled on, 4 of them working together to control Kozlov's limbs. Someone produced a knife and cut through Kozlov's jacket, revealing the suicide vest underneath a complex arrangement of explosives, ball bearings, and wiring wrapped around his torso. "Jesus," one of the agents breathed. "Found the trigger," Walsh said. "It's in his right hand. He's got his finger on the button. If we pull his hand out, he might press it reflexively." Tom's mind raced. He had dealt with situations like this before, but never in a crowded American shopping mall on Christmas Eve. "Can we jam the signal?" "Don't know the frequency. Could be radio, could be direct wire. Too risky." Tom looked at Kozlov's face. The man's eyes were wild with rage and determination. He knew he was caught, knew his mission had failed. And Tom recognized that look. It was the look of someone who would rather die and take everyone with him than surrender. "Victor," Tom said in Russian, his voice calm despite the chaos. "It's over. Your cell is captured. Your plan is exposed. Triggering that vest now kills innocent families, children, people who have nothing to do with your war. Is that really how you want to end?" "You don't understand," Kozlov spat back in Russian. "This is not about them. This is about sending a message, about showing that nowhere is safe, that America's comfort and security is an illusion. I understand perfectly. I spent 32 years fighting your wars, preventing your attacks, stopping men exactly like you. And you know what I learned? Terror doesn't win. It never wins, because for every one of you, there are millions of us. People who choose life over death, hope over despair, love over hate." Pretty words from a broken man playing Santa Claus. "Maybe I am broken," Tom admitted. "Maybe this job destroyed me piece by piece. But at least I can look at those children over there and know I fought to protect them." "What do you see when you look at them?" Kozlov's eyes flickered toward the crowd, toward the families who were beginning to realize something was wrong, toward the children clutching their parents' hands with growing fear. For just a moment, something shifted in his expression. Humanity, doubt, hesitation. Tom felt Kozlov's finger loosen slightly on the trigger. "That's right," Tom said softly. "You still have a choice. You can die here as a terrorist who murdered innocent children on Christmas Eve, or you can surrender, face justice, and at least not add those souls to the ones you already carry." The bomb squad arrived, 3 technicians in heavy protective gear pushing through the crowd with their equipment. They assessed the situation quickly, one of them producing a specialized tool designed to freeze trigger mechanisms. "We can disable it," the lead technician said, "but not while his finger is on the button. We need him to release it voluntarily, or we need complete neural incapacitation." "Neural incapacitation means shooting him," Walsh said, "which could cause his hand to spasm and trigger the vest anyway." Everyone looked at Tom, still locked in close proximity to Kozlov, still holding the man's wrist, his face inches from the explosive vest. "Victor," Tom said, "I'm going to tell you something true. I have 2 children, a daughter and a son. I missed most of their childhoods because of this life. I sacrificed my marriage, my relationships, my mental health, everything, to fight people like you. And for years, I thought that sacrifice made me a hero. But it didn't. It just made me broken." He could feel Kozlov listening. 3 years ago, I retired, came here to Denver, started playing Santa because a therapist said I needed to engage with the community. And you know what I discovered? That listening to children tell me their wishes, seeing families laugh together, being part of their joy for a few moments, that healed me more than any mission ever did. That gave me purpose, real purpose, not death, but life. Tom's voice grew stronger. "My children are coming to see me tonight. For the first time in years, we're going to be a family again. I'm going to have Christmas with them, and I'll be damned if I let you take that away from me. So here's the deal. You release that trigger. You let these people go home to their families. and I'll make sure you're treated fairly, by the book, with all the protections the law provides. Why would you offer me that? Koslov asked, his voice showing confusion for the first time. Because unlike you, I still believe in something. I believe that even broken people can choose to do the right thing. I believe that mercy is stronger than vengeance, and I believe that you're tired, Victor. Tired of running, tired of killing, tired of being the monster. So stop. Just stop, please. The shopping center had gone nearly silent. Hundreds of people stood frozen watching this strange tableau. Santa Claus locked in an embrace with a man wearing a bomb surrounded by federal agents. The fate of everyone present hanging on a single decision. Kozlov's eyes met Tom's, and in that moment Tom saw past the terrorist, past the killer, past the ideology. He saw a tired, damaged human being who had walked so far down a dark path that he couldn't remember what light looked like. My mother loved Christmas, Kozlov said suddenly in Russian, his voice barely a whisper. When I was young, before everything ... She would make special meals, we would sing. She said Christmas was when God reminded us that love was possible, even in darkness. Then honor her memory, Tom said. Don't do this. Slowly, incrementally, Kozlov's finger lifted off the trigger button. The bomb technician moved with practiced efficiency, sliding a specialized clamp over Kozlov's hand and the trigger, mechanically preventing it from being pressed. Then, with careful precision, they began disarming the vest. 4 minutes later, it was over. The explosives were neutralized. Kozlov was restrained and being led away. The immediate crisis had passed. Tom stood there, his legs shaking, his whole body trembling with adrenaline crash and exhaustion. Margaret ran over to him, tears streaming down her face. Tom. Oh my God, Tom, what just happened? Who are you? Tom looked at her, this kind woman who had given him a job when he needed purpose, who had welcomed him into the Cherry Creek family, who had no idea that her mall Santa was a retired CIA operative. I'm just someone who couldn't let Christmas be ruined, he said softly. Martinez approached her expression a mixture of relief and professional concern. Tom, we need to debrief, but first, are you hurt? No, I'm okay. What you did was reckless and violated about 47 protocols, but it worked. She smiled slightly. Yes, it worked. You saved potentially hundreds of lives today. The mall was being evacuated now. Families guided calmly toward the exits by uniformed officers and mall security. The children who had been waiting to see Santa were confused. Some were crying. Tom wanted to reassure them, to tell them everything was okay, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. He sat down heavily on the steps leading up to his throne. Agent Walsh approached and offered his hand. Sir, that was the bravest thing I've seen in 20 years of law enforcement. Thank you. Tom shook his hand weakly, just doing what needed to be done. Over the next hour, as the mall was secured and the scene processed, Tom gave his statement to multiple agencies. FBI, Homeland Security, CIA, Denver PD. Everyone wanted his account of events. He answered their questions mechanically, his mind already drifting to other concerns. His children were supposed to arrive at 8. It was 7:30 now. Martinez, Tom said. I need to go. My kids ... Understood. We have everything we need for now. Tom, seriously, thank you. You prevented a massacre today. Will Kozlov give up his networks? We think so. Something you said to him got through. He's already asking for a lawyer and expressing willingness to cooperate in exchange for certain protections. You might have just broken open an entire terrorist cell structure. Tom nodded, but he felt oddly empty. The mission was complete. The threat was neutralized. He should feel triumph, vindication, pride. Instead, he just felt tired. He changed out of his Santa costume for the last time, putting on his regular clothes in the employee dressing room. Margaret had already gone home, shaken but safe. The mall was dark now, closed for emergency processing. Tom walked through the empty corridors alone, his footsteps echoing in the silence. When he reached his car, he sat for a moment, looking at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The face of a man who had spent his life in shadows, who had sacrificed everything for a mission that never truly ended. But tonight, that mission was finally over. He drove home through the quiet Denver streets. Christmas lights twinkling from houses, families visible through windows sharing meals and laughter. The world he had protected, the life he had fought for, happening all around him. His phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Dad, we're at your house. Where are you? Tom's heart leaped. They were there. His children were waiting for him. He texted back. 5 minutes away. Love you. When he pulled into his driveway, he saw them standing on his front porch. Rebecca, his daughter, 32 years old, beautiful and strong like her mother. And Michael, his son, 35, tall and serious, wearing a suit even on Christmas Eve. They both turned when his car appeared, and for a moment, Tom couldn't move. He just sat there, looking at them, overwhelmed by the sudden reality that this was happening. Then Rebecca ran toward his car, and Tom was out and catching her in his arms, and she was crying and laughing simultaneously. Michael followed more slowly, but his eyes were wet too, and then all three of them were holding each other in the driveway while snow began to fall gently around them. Dad, Rebecca said, pulling back to look at him. We saw the news, the mall. They said Santa stopped a terrorist attack. They didn't show his face, but it was you, wasn't it? Tom couldn't lie anymore. Not to them. Yes, Who are you? Michael asked quietly. I mean, who were you? Before this, before us, before everything. Tom looked at both of his children, these beautiful people he had helped create but barely knew. Can we go inside? It's a long story. They went into his modest house, and for the first time in his life, Tom told his children the truth. All of it. The missions, the sacrifices, the reasons for his absences, the things he had done in the name of national security. He spoke for 2 hours without interruption while they listened, their expressions moving through shock, anger, confusion, and finally understanding. When he finished, they sat in silence for a long moment. I'm so sorry, Tom said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I lied. I'm sorry I chose the mission over you, over your mother, over everything that mattered. I was trying to keep the world safe, but I lost my own world in the process. Rebecca reached over and took his hand. Dad, I'm not going to say it's okay, because it's not. We needed you, and you weren't there. That hurt so much, I know, but, she continued, squeezing his hand. I also understand why now, and I see that you're trying. The therapy, the mole job, the way you reached out, you're trying to be different, to be present. Michael spoke next, his voice tight with emotion. When I was 14 and you and Mum split up, I hated you. I thought you were just another deadbeat dad who cared more about work than his family. It took me years to even be willing to talk to you again. Tom nodded, tears streaming down his face. I don't blame you for that, but Rebecca told me about how you've been the past few years, how you've tried to connect, how you've shown up, even when we pushed you away. And tonight, seeing what you did, knowing that you risked your life to save all those people, ... Double quotes. Michael paused, struggling with his words. I'm proud of you, Dad, and I'm sorry I couldn't see past my anger before. The three of them cried together, releasing years of pain, regret, and missed opportunities, and then, slowly they began to heal. They talked through the night, sharing stories, laughing, arguing, connecting in ways they never had before. Rebecca told him about her architecture firm, showed him pictures of his grandson. Michael talked about his work in finance, about his recent engagement to a woman named Sarah who he wanted Tom to meet. At midnight, as Christmas officially arrived, Tom prepared a simple meal for them, nothing fancy, just scrambled eggs and toast, but made with love and presence. They ate together at his small kitchen table, and it was the most beautiful Christmas meal Tom had ever experienced. Dad, Rebecca said as they finished eating. What happens now? Are you done with all of it? Tom thought about that. About the life he had lived, the skills he still possessed, the instincts that would never truly go dormant. I think I'm done with the agency, he said finally. Done with operations, with missions, with living in shadows. But I'm not done protecting people. Maybe I'll volunteer with veterans organizations, help others who are struggling with PTSD. Maybe I'll keep being Santa, because that brought me more joy than I ever expected. Or maybe I'll just figure it out as I go, with you two by my side. We'd like that, Michael said, being by your side. Finally, they stayed up until 3 in the morning, making up for lost time, building bridges over years of distance. When Tom finally went to bed, his children sleeping in his guest room, he felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Peace. Christmas morning came with bright sunshine reflecting off fresh snow. Tom woke to the smell of coffee and found Rebecca in his kitchen preparing breakfast. Merry Christmas, Dad, she said, hugging him tightly. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Michael emerged from the guest room looking more relaxed than Tom had ever seen him. They spent the day together, exchanging simple gifts, watching Christmas movies, talking and laughing and being a family. Tom's phone rang once, Martinez calling to update him that Kozlov was cooperating, providing information about multiple terrorist cells, and that the prevented attack at Cherry Creek was already being hailed as a major counterterrorism success. Tom thanked her and politely declined her offer to be recognized publicly for his role. I don't need recognition, he told her. I just needed to make sure those families got to have their Christmas. In the evening they drove together to visit Patricia, Tom's ex-wife. She lived in Boulder now with her new husband, a kind man named David who welcomed them warmly. Patricia hugged Tom for a long time, tears in her eyes. Thank you for bringing our children together, she said. I know that couldn't have been easy. They did most of the work, Tom replied. I just tried to show up. That's all anyone can do, Tom. Just show up, be present. You're doing it now, and that's what matters. As the evening ended and Tom drove his children back to his house, Rebecca asked the question that had been on her mind all day. Dad, when you were face to face with that man, with the bomb literally inches from you, what went through your mind? Tom thought about that, about those crucial moments when everything hung in balance. I thought about you, he said honestly. About Michael, about all the Christmases I missed. And I thought about all those families in the mall, about the Christmases they deserved to have. I realized that the mission I'd been on my whole life, the one I thought was about national security and defeating threats, it was really about protecting moments, protecting the small, beautiful, precious moments when families are together, when children laugh, when people feel safe enough to love each other. That's what I've always been fighting for. I just forgot it for a while. Rebecca leaned her head on his shoulder. Well, you remembered, and because you did, hundreds of families got to have their Christmas, including ours. That night, after his children had gone to sleep, Tom sat alone in his living room, looking at the small Christmas tree they had decorated together earlier. It wasn't much, a 4-foot artificial tree with mismatched ornaments and a string of white lights, but it was theirs. It was family. It was real. His phone buzzed one final time. A text from Richard Webb. Tom, I heard what happened. Truly extraordinary work. The agency would like to. Tom deleted the message without reading the rest. Whatever the agency wanted, whatever recognition or honor or new opportunity they were offering, he wasn't interested. That chapter of his life was closed. He had a new mission now. Being a father. Being present. Being the man his children needed him to be. And maybe, just maybe, being the man he needed himself to be. On December 26, the news broke nationally about the prevented terrorist attack at Cherry Creek Shopping Center. The story focused on the heroic federal agents, the quick response, the sophisticated operation. Tom's name was never mentioned. His face was never shown. He remained, as he preferred, invisible. But 3 days later, on December 29th, Tom returned to Cherry Creek Shopping Center, not as an operative, not as a spy, just as Tom, a man who wanted to thank Margaret and the staff for the opportunity they had given him. Margaret hugged him tightly when she saw him. Tom, are you okay? I've been so worried. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. But, Margaret, I need to tell you something. I can't come back to work after the holidays. Her face fell. Oh no. Why? Was it because of what happened? Because that wasn't your fault, and everyone understands. No, it's not that. It's just, ... Time for me to move on. To focus on my family, on rebuilding relationships I let fall apart. But I wanted to thank you. These 3 years, playing Santa, being part of this community. It saved me in ways I can't fully explain. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Tom, you have no idea how much you meant to us, to the kids, to the families, to all of us. You weren't just playing Santa, you were Santa, the real thing. Tom smiled. I think the real thing was learning that I didn't have to save the whole world. Sometimes saving one day, one moment, one Christmas for a few families is enough, more than enough. As he walked out of Cherry Creek Shopping Center for the last time, Tom felt the weight he had carried for 32 years finally lift. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a legend. He was just a man who had spent his life fighting in the shadows and had finally found his way into the light. And this Christmas, the one he would remember for the rest of his life, wasn't about stopping a terrorist or preventing an attack. It was about 3 people sitting at a kitchen table at midnight, eating scrambled eggs and toast, and being a family. That was the real mission. That was always the real mission. And for the first time in his life, Thomas Aldridge had succeeded. The story you've just heard is a reminder that heroes walk among us, often invisible, carrying burdens we can't imagine. The mall Santa who listens patiently to your child might be a decorated veteran. The quiet neighbor might have saved lives in ways they'll never discuss. The grandfather who seems ordinary might have an extraordinary past. Thomas Aldridge's story shows us that redemption is possible, that it's never too late to choose family, to choose presence, to choose love over the mission that consumed you. And it reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories aren't won on battlefields or in covert operations, but in living rooms, at kitchen tables, in the simple act of showing up for the people who matter most. We'd love to hear from you. What did you think of this incredible story? Comment below with your name and what city and state you're watching from. Your engagement helps us bring you more amazing truer life stories like this one. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share this story with someone who appreciates tales of courage, redemption, and the power of family. And don't go anywhere yet. The next recommended video is appearing on your screen right now, another incredible story you won't want to miss. Click it now and continue the journey with us. Thank you for being part of our community. Merry Christmas, and remember, the person sitting next to you might be extraordinary. Treat everyone with kindness because you never know what battles they've fought or what miracles they've performed. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep seeking the stories that remind us what it means to be human.